All right, we have a request coming in off of the Patreon page right now. And the question is essentially, is there an attack being staged, an attack on America? And by staged, I mean built up to, right? Prepared for, or something. So, is an attack from somewhere being prepared currently for an attack on America? And let's just see what we get. Okay, the root card is the Ace of Wands, and the main card is the Death card. Now, the Ace of Wands, here we have a baby, right? The new source of inspiration. It's like a creative baby, but I think what I'm actually looking at here is the actual baby. And then we look at the Death card, and in the Death card, this one is pregnant and about to give birth. That's one of her previous children that's trying to crawl back into her womb, and she is not going to let that happen. So she sacrifices the old child to make room for the new. Now, what I'm getting out of this is, and this is probably going right along with all of the migration stuff, is that it's just like new babies replacing the old ones. It's like an influx of new people that are replacing the old people. Now, of course, that is just naturally true in any place because new babies replace people who are old and die. But this is like a demographic shift, I think. Well, let's just see what's on either side here. All right. So we get the Hierophant leading up to the Death card, and on the other side, the Seven of Swords. Now, the Hierophant is tradition. So, the traditional way that things have always been done. And then that leads up to the Death card, which is, again, this like new thing being born and the old thing essentially being wiped out. And then that leads to a Seven of Swords. And the Seven of Swords is all kinds of pressure to do something that someone is maybe not so ready to do. And still, as I'm looking at this, I mean, what I really see here is a demographics shift as there are new babies being born. Um, and then the old way that things have been gets sacrificed. And I'm going to pull one more on the Seven of Swords, but the Seven of Swords is immediately there's all kinds of pressure to do something, right? And let's just see what that is. And the Eight of Cups is essentially letting go of old emotional energy. All right. I don't know what that's talking about. So, what is it that's being left? Abundance. All right. Well, and with this, it would look like an economic collapse, probably, that kind of comes here. So, all of the pressure looks like it would be economic pressure. And the thing that gets let go of is the ability to buy the things that you want. Financial excess, we'll say. All right. Well, okay. So, is there any sort of a violent shift that happens with this energy? And let's just see what we get. And we get the Judgment card. All right. I don't really take this to be violent. I think this is more like just some decree that is sent down, from the government or something. but I don't take this to mean like any sort of a conflict, like an armed conflict or anything. This shift looks like it just happens through demographics and well, and then eventually through what appears to be an economic meltdown, probably. All right. So, one of the interesting things about all of this with the mass migrations, all of the European countries are going through this as well. So let's just look that way. So, are there any European countries that there are attacks being staged upon, right? Like, are any of these migration waves basically attacks or, preparing for attacks? And we get the Ace of Cups, and it's interesting. On the bottom, once again, we get the Hierophant. I'm going to put a card on the other side of the Ace just to see where we're going with this. And look at that. It's the fucking Death card. Okay. Well, the same thing is happening there. All right. Now, I'm once again going to pull a card to see if there's any sort of violent deal or if this is just a demographic shift. And the 10 of Wands, this would be labor, right? So again, this is demographics, this is economic. It does work kind of the same way, though, because the traditional system gets toppled, right? The traditional system gets sacrificed to make room for something new. And something new, world order, right? That's pretty much the deal. Now, I'm going to pull a card as like a yes or no here and just try to find out if the migrant waves are just 100% a result of or connected to the New World Order. And the Seven of Wands is basically now this is very consistent with what I have seen in all of the readings that I've done about these waves of migrants. The Seven of Wands is showing someone coming out of a place of restriction. And even though this energy seems to work together with and tie completely with all of these New World Order plans, the actual people are just trying to go to some sort of place of freedom. And the cards have been very consistent with this. Like the migrants themselves don't have some fucking evil plan in mind in any of these cases. Well, I shouldn't say that because there's an awful lot of people and some people are bad. But as a whole, we just have people that are trying to come out of a place of restriction and go to a place of freedom. Now, as it turns out, what that creates is this sort of labor and economic shift. It's a massive demographic shift, and it does topple whatever the traditional structure was that was there. And it looks like this is true in the United States, and this is also true in the European countries as well. Okay. Well, just looking at the energy of, any sort of a violent attack on a country, are there any of those that are upcoming? We've seen a couple recently. So, what do we have as far as violent attacks on countries that are coming up? And the Three of Wands shows a slow growing energy. So there's a couple things that this is saying to me right away. Number one, that there's probably 3 different countries that are going to be violently attacked. And the other thing is that this is a long, slow growing energy. Now, it might coincide with the shit that we just looked at with all of the babies and everything, because here we have the pregnant woman who's kind of growing these wands. It's again this like nurturing baby like pregnancy energy, just like in the other ones. Let's just see. I'm going to put some cards around this to see if we can find out anything more about this. Okay, so sort of feeding into this Three of Wands is the Star. And normally the star is a blessing. The star is something that would renew hope in people. It's like the universe kind of giving you what it is that you've been hoping for. And as I look deeper into this card to see what exactly it is that I'm looking at, I mean, initially there's the water, so there might be a flood. And the flood might sort of break down the um, the structure enough that then the country can be attacked. And on the other side, we have the Justice card, and that I mean, I'm going to pull one more on this just to see what we're looking at. The Reversed Magician. Now, the magician is the performer that's like way out there for everyone to see, right? This thing being reversed, I just think that this is showing something that's hidden. So the Justice card here, this is probably just really bogus actions of like world courts and that sort of thing. I think the Justice is talking about law type energy and legal stuff. But the hidden magician is the one that's pulling the strings from behind, right? And they would also sort of be pulling the strings of the courts and the legal structures that exist. So when we look at this whole thing, as far as any attacks on countries that are coming up, it looks like any sort of law structure or court or legal system is being manipulated to the degree that they wouldn't help, right? It would be it would go along with whatever it was that was happening. Now, I'm just going to pull one more to see if we can get any hints at what country it is that would be invaded. Well, the Six of Cups is showing a country that has been invaded before. I'm going to pull one more to see what we get. The Reverse Sun. All right. Now, whatever country this is, it looks like there's two groups. There's two groups of people. And here, in the Sun, these two groups are not getting along. They're like brothers, they're twins, right? But they're split. So they would be probably close to a civil war anyway. And the Six of Cups is showing a country that has been invaded before, and that's because here they're showing this the old story, the good versus evil story, and I'm pretty sure these two are the same as the two in the Sun, right? Um, but the six, there's some sort of a conflict between the two major peoples of this country. They have been attacked before, as the six hints at a memory, right? Um, yeah, let's just put a timeline on this. I guess there's a flood maybe that would happen first, but let's just pull a card for some sort of timeline. And we get the moon. Now, I honestly don't think that this is showing a specific period of time. What I think this is really showing is when these same two that are shown here and here, when these same two groups are 100% manipulated. So this would be something that the people of the countries could actually manage. You know, they could affect the timeline by not being manipulated like puppets, right? Um, and honestly, you could look at these, and I don't believe the United States has ever been invaded before. But other than the hint that it's a country that's been invaded before, you could look at this and definitely see the United States in there, because you've got these two people that are just not wanting to be together. They're being fundamentally manipulated, the right wing and the left wing, you know. And once they are 100% manipulated, which fucking may have happened 5 years ago, then they will be ready for invasion. But as we looked at the cards, this said that the invasion of the United States is one that happens through demographics, not through a violent situation. So these symbols would show up for whatever country it is that essentially gets invaded next. And honestly, you could look at all of the countries that have been invaded, and these things are true in all of them. Um, I mean, with the exception, I guess, of Palestine, but Palestine and Israel would be like the two in the sun, right? Where you've got these two, and here they're in total acceptance of each other, and everything is good. And when the sun is turned upside down, then they are just fundamentally not accepting of the other's truth, you know? And also, especially in the readings that I've done on that situation in the past, that would fall into the category of the moon as well, where each side is being fucking manipulated to a massive degree. And I guess that's what we get here. So, just looking at the United States and Europe, it looks like the invasion, quote unquote, is happening and has been happening for a while. But in those cases, it is a demographics invasion, and it wouldn't necessarily be happening through violent means. It would be more of a slow burn, um, just through the people. The new people outnumbering the old people, I guess. And here we have a country that will be violently invaded, maybe three of them, and they've all been invaded before. But first, look for the manipulation. And this is propaganda, and this is bullshit laws. I mean, see COVID, right? Um, so that's what we get here. And I would love to hear what you think about this. Thank you, and peace.